Okay, so Sunstrike 4 was announced at Gamescom 2016, and or shortly before it. And what have we done since then? I mean, of course, we've worked on the game a lot, and we've created a lot of new missions, units, effects, whatever, you name it. But also, we've listened to player feedback a lot. I mean, we've done lots of playtesting. We've taken the game to Gamescom, to PAX events, for example, and we've seen players' feedback from all over the world, Europe, Russia, America. So, and what we've seen is there's two different, let's say, like large batches of feedback. There's the one kind of feedback that seems to tell us that people want, I mean, more realism in the game or less modern amenities, and they I would call them kind of like the purists. And there's the other kind of feedback that new players that come into the game kind of felt overwhelmed with the Gamescom demo, where we showed, for example, the Stalingrad mission. They felt overwhelmed, they didn't know what to do, the game was too hard for them. So, of course, these kind of go in two separate directions. So we thought, what can we do to the game to make sure that both kind of players actually feel good with the game, they get what they want from the game. So let's go into the first kind of batch of feedback. Game is not realistic enough, or has too many modern amenities. There's blue circles for objectives like this one. Why is that all there? Let's see. So, okay. You remember this mission from Gamescom, most probably. Also showed it in the stream. If you haven't seen it from then, jump back and you'll find some of the recordings of that. So the mission itself hasn't changed much, but what I want to show you is if we travel down the line and get some of the missions into contact with others. Something that you see is that, for example, the units draw, the projectiles draw trails after them, and that was criticized a lot. I mean, there's like, oh yeah, this is not realistic. Projectiles will not pull trails, and yes, of course, that's not realistic. I see. Okay, so you can see now here the projectiles draw trails. Yes, that's not realistic, but of course it's there for a reason. Projectiles draw trails so that new players can actually see, okay, there's something attacking me. Where is it coming from? How big is the shell? How fast does it fly? Where do I need to go to kind of counter this attack? For an experienced player, or the poorest, let's say, this is kind of unrealistic. They don't want to see it. So what did we do? We introduced a lot of settings for the game that you can actually, turn on or off a lot of things. I mean, let's go through them. Tutorial hints. Yes, you can kind of deactivate all the tutorial hints if you don't want them. Projectile trails. Let's put them off. Let's turn them off and let's see how the game looks then. The blue objective markers. Yes, we can turn them off. Great. Objective markers on minimap. Turn them off. Whatever. Health bars. Don't want to see them. Turn them off. Badge pop-ups. That's the kind of the feedback system that we give you for if you're playing tactically wise or not. Well, turn it off. You don't want to see it? Fine. The star bar that is connected to that? Also, turn it off. Fine. Chatters, hearing feedbacks. I mean, that units, there's a feedback that units can hear, that infantry units can hear vehicles when they approach, and there's kind of like a yellow feedback icon for that. Turn it off, whatever. You don't want to see it. Objective panels, unit status icons, flares, whatever. You name it. You can turn it off. And you will have a much more like purist game there. Okay, so now you see projectiles don't pull trails anymore. There's no health bars on units. Projectiles seem to fly much faster, but they fly the same actually, just that there are not trails after them. And you don't see objective markers. You don't see health bars. You name it. I mean, what the idea behind this was, a player that is very experienced might not need any of this, and sometimes he might not want any of this. So if he wants to play it that way, he can. Stripped down, I mean, the game might look something like this. You might not have any whatsoever. I mean, not any well, UI or whatsoever. And if you want that, yeah, we give it to you. So you can customize the game to an extent however you want. It will be harder, yes, of course, especially for new players. But player freedom is very important to us, so we give it to you. Okay, let's jump into another mission to show you how the other half of the feedback is taken into account. So I'll implement all of the stuff again for the new players. But so to remind you, the second kind of feedback was game is too hard. I don't know what I'm doing. This is not your typical RTS. It is aimed at a hardcore audience, so yes. But we also want new players to be in the game. And we want the game to be as accessible as a hardcore RTS can be. So let's see. Let's jump into a mission in the German campaign, the Battle of Sedan. Let's see. So as normally you'll get kind of a historical background and everything. But what we introduced to the game since Gamescom is an easy mode. Now, let's not be mistaken about an easy mode. The easy mode is still a hardcore RTS. The missions will not change. There are not less enemy units, and you still need to think tactically wise on anything in the game. But the easy mode is a little bit more forgiving on mistakes that you might make. What it does, it decreases the hit damage that the enemy does, and it increases the hit damage that you do a little bit, to a little bit extent. And you can play every mission in normal mode or easy mode. The game will also kind of evaluate how you play missions. So, for example, if you play 2 or 3 missions in normal mode and you fail miserably all of the time, the game will kind of tell you, hey, dude, don't you want to play the easy mode for a change? And vice versa. I mean, if you're doing very well in the easy mode, it will kind of suggest you to try the normal mode because you're pretty good. And for the really hardcore guys, we introduced the challenge mode. So if you have unlocked 3 stars in a mission, so completed it to a very wise extent, very well, then you unlock the challenge mode. And the challenge mode is completely different for each mission. So there's a unique setup for a challenge mode. For example, in this mission, if you start with a challenge mode, you need to complete the mission with a limited ammo supply. In other missions, it will be win this mission, but only you start with 20% of fuel in each vehicle. So we created a unique challenge mode for each mission. Okay, let's jump into the mission and see what it is. I mean, this is kind of one of the first attacks in the French area, and the idea of this is you need to cross the Meuse River and build some bridges on it. So what we introduced for new players is a system that checks whether something new is coming up that you haven't encountered so far and give you kind of a small tutorial pop-up on this. So that's what you see right now. In this mission, the new mechanic is to how you build bridges. So what we did is we introduced small videos that pop up whenever a new mechanic is coming up, and yeah, it will show you how you need to do it. Actually, if you get a new mechanic and you already do it directly afterwards, and kind of like, okay, the game will check, well, okay, this player is kind of experienced and he already knows what to do, so the tutorial pop-up for that mechanic will not pop up again. But if after 2 or 3 minutes the game sees that you still haven't done what the new mechanic asked you to do, then it will do the pop-up another time, so that that kind of you're being reminded of what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it. For the purists out there, let me reassure you, you can turn off all of these tutorial things. Like, you don't need to put up with any tutorial whatsoever if you don't want to. So yeah, summing up what we did, We introduced a lot of customization for the people that want a pure Sunstrike experience. And we introduced an easy mode and tutorial pop-ups and a lot more accessibility into the game to get new players into the game quickly, and whenever they want to, they jump into the normal or the hardcore mode and the challenges. So for a new challenge, and that's kind of like bringing two worlds together, like the hardcore RTS and a new kind of modern accessibility.